Hey everybody, I'm Connor and welcome back to the channel. I realised that I've not done a Pokemon deck review for quite some time, so I figured I would come back and have a look at one of the decks I've been using quite a bit recently, and I'm really quite happy with the list. I've looked at quite a few other lists and made some changes accordingly, and yeah, I think this works quite nicely. It's very fun to play at the moment, and yeah, let's just get right into it. And the deck itself is going to be the Vespiquen Vileplume, and starting off, of course, we're going to be having 4 Combi, which is the basic that goes into our main attacker Vespiquen. So Combi has 40 HP, but really we're going to want Vespiquen here. It does Be Revenge, and it's going to be doing more damage for each Pokemon that we have in the discard pile. It's stage 1 and it has 90 HP, also free retreat, and its first attack is important to note. We're going to be doing 10 damage and drawing until we have 6, which it's just important to keep in mind. And along with that, in order to try and boost our damage, we're going to be running a heavy line of Vileplume that we're going to be discarding early on in the game to power up Vespiquen's Be Revenge attack. So we're running 4 Oddish, 4 Gloom, and 3 Vileplume. Vileplume, stage 2 grass type, has the ability Irritating Pollen, which is going to block off all of our opponents and our own item cards. And of course, as you'll see, item cards are very important when it comes to competitive decks, and ironically we're playing a huge number of item cards. So another way to boost damage and also draw cards is by playing Unknown with Farewell Letter. It's the ability that lets us put them onto our bench and then draw a card after we discard them from our bench. So it's going to let us draw more without using supporters or item cards, and it's also going to boost our damage for Vespiquen, which is very important. In my current build, and also because I only own them, I'm running 2 Shaman EX. It's a staple in every deck, or near enough every deck right now. It's EX with 110 HP, set up, you get to draw until you have 6 cards, and it's going to return 30 damage, put it back into your hand. It's a very effective card, and yeah, almost every deck runs it. And also as a tech, running 2 Bunnelby, which is nice for Rototiller. We get to attach energy onto him and shuffle 2 cards back into our deck, as he has the ancient trait which allows him to attack twice. So Rototiller really coming in useful to get back our double colourless energy, or when Vespiquen gets knocked out later in the game, we can get that back, or if we had to discard it early game, then it's really good to get it back. Like the only real thing that you can play around with for Pokemon, I would say, is that you can add another Shaman EX, maybe take out a Bunnelby for it, but at the moment I've found this really effective, and yeah, it's of course difficult to get hold of Shaman as well, so I only have 2 at the moment, but another one wouldn't hurt you at all. Going on to the supporter cards, also the other trainer cards afterwards. The supporter cards, we're going to be running 4 Professor Sycamore. It's the best draw in the game, of course, if you already know, or then you'll see discard your hand, draw 7. If you've got full of Pokemon like Vileplumes and the Vileplume line in your hand, you can get all of those into your discard pile, draw fresh 7. It's going to keep you going early game. And then the rest of the supporters, we run one-offs, and they're just really tech cards for later in the game. So Misty Determination, we get to discard a card from our hand and then look at the top 8 cards of the deck, and get to choose one and put it into our hand, which means early game we can use this, or late game as well. You can use this, discard a Pokemon like say a spare Gloom that we've got stuck in our hand. We could discard it and get a say DCE from the top 8 if we have it. Also running one copy of AZ or As or however you want to say it. You get to pick up one of your Pokemon, put it into your hand, all the other cards get discarded, which is very good for picking up Shaman. We get to still draw cards in the early game, or if say like a Vileplume gets stuck in the active and we don't have any way of getting it out, we can AZ to pick it back up. And also lastly, we have one copy of Judge for late game. Both players shuffle in their hands and draw 4. Our late game deck is going to get very, very small, and Judge really helps out with that, and we get to shuffle our hand in and only draw 4, which is very nice. I guess you could probably play around with it. I originally had Lysander in there instead, but it wasn't really working out too much as there's just not much use for it. Like, you could occasionally use it, but it's not very useful, and I'm finding that like AZ and Judge were more useful in there instead. But moving on to the stadiums and item cards in the deck, the things that are really going to make this deck work right from the start is Forest of Giant Plants, which lets you, if you don't know, evolve your grass type Pokemon straight away. Oops, gotta hold the card, that'd be helpful. Yeah, Forest of Giant Plants, you get to evolve your grass type Pokemon right from the start, even if it's turn 1 or you've just put it into play, which means we're going to get our Vespiquen out straight away. We can get a turn 1 Vileplume item lock, which is crucial to this deck, and of course 4 Battle Compressor is going to guarantee that as well, discarding everything that we can. Usually you're going to be discarding your Vileplume lines and just leaving yourself with 1, and then easily searching out that 1 line with 4 Ultra Ball, best Pokemon search card in the game as well. Discard 2 cards, search your deck for a Pokemon. I'm also running 2 Level Ball. You get to search for any Pokemon that has less than 90 HP, which means that we can get out our Vespiquens or Gloom if we need to, or even Unknown and Bunnelby as well early game, which is really nice. Also running 3 copies of Trainer's Mail, which lets you kind of find another trainer card at the top of your deck. Only running 3 copies because that's all I can fit in at the moment. Also 3 is just a really nice number, and I think 4 is probably a bit overkill. Although in saying that, I am actually running 3 float stones, which I found really good because if you are resorting to using Bunnelby, then you can slap a float stone on it and it's going to have free retreat, so you can still go back and use that Bunnelby later, instead of discarding your DCE and then you've kind of just like used the Bunnelby to get DCE back but then wasted another DCE in retreating. So Floatstone is really good for that, and also Vileplume has a rather hefty retreat cost, so Floatstone helps out there. I'm also running 1 copy of Red Card. You get to shuffle your opponent's hand into their deck and then they draw 4 cards, which is really nice early game because if you are sure you're getting the turn 1 Vileplume item lock, then you can play Red Card and your opponent will be completely shut out of cards and hopefully have very little to work with. And finally I have a Super Rod, which isn't totally relevant right now because it's supposed to be a revitalizer, and revitalizer, of course, you get to get 2 grass type Pokemon cards from your discard pile and put them into your hand. So turn 1 you can discard even more than Vileplume than you originally could, like without this, and then you can just get the Vileplumes right out of the discard pile rather than having to search them with Ultra Ball. But Super Rod, you can still get 3 Pokemon back into your deck if you need to. So if I'm like discarding Vespiquens early on with Ultra Ball or Sycamore, I can still get them back with Super Rod, and it still does a decent job at the moment. And lastly, as our Shamans for Sky Return use double colourless, and our Be Revenge attacker uses double colourless, we're only running 4 double colourless energy, no other energy in the deck, which is why Bunnelby can come in such a clutch card. But yeah, overall it's just all about getting the turn 1 Vileplume Vespiquen set up. It's very easy, very consistent to get done. I'd say overall the deck is fairly cheap apart from the Shamans, although you probably need the Shamans in it, like without a doubt. You can't run the deck properly without them, so those are the only really expensive cards. And yeah, overall it has very good matchups apart from say Fire, I guess, because of the weakness, but all around it has great matchups. Although I have been playing it for a little while, and I'm gonna like switch it up and take it apart shortly. And you also have to watch out for if we do get the card Karen printed, which is a card in the Japanese set that got printed recently. It's a supporter, and it makes both players shuffle in all Pokemon from their discard pile into their deck, and it would render Vespiquen's attack absolutely useless, doing like 10 damage per turn, and it's just not great for this deck. I mean, Vileplume might still see play elsewhere in other decks, but Vespiquen and Night March would not do well at all. So for that reason, and the fact that I've been playing it for a little while, I'm going to take this deck apart and build some other stuff that I might show you. But yeah, that's my Vespiquen Vileplume deck list. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you see some ideas that you might want to put into your own deck, or maybe try this deck out if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you want to see some more stuff like this. And yeah, subscribe for more. Stay updated on Facebook as well.